I think so many Americans right now don't feel alive, especially young men and even, women. This is a personal impression, but I'd like to bounce them off of you. Number one, the much maligned social media and the handheld device, but also just the corrosive effects of affluence that we're never exposed to discomfort. We're always in a room that's air conditioned or heated to 72 degrees. We're never more than a few steps away from some delicious, rich food. We in our cars about twice as much as we were in the 1980s. We don't have to have a conversation with anybody anymore because we can just pick up our phone and text them, or we have our headphones on. And I'm wondering if you think that this affluence is a dangerous thing, and if there's a way out of it.
I think my answer is a little bit more nuanced, right? So starting with like our phones and social media, I mean, there are people who would not be connected at all if they didn't have the connection with their phone, through their phones or through social media. So I do think that kind of connection is better than not at all. But I certainly, there are ways that we're a lot less connected to others sort of on a daily basis that is impacting our happiness, or the young people just not learning basic skills of how to have a conversation. And maybe we're exaggerating it, but we certainly know plenty of examples. And one of my favorite examples is we used to, when we were kids, we would visit each other's houses and we would knock on the door, and like the mom or dad would answer. We'd say, "Oh, hi, Mr. Smith. How are you? Is Susie home?" And then we would talk to them. And now the kids don't do that, right? They just text the other kid and they come out of the house. I mean, they don't even have the experience of saying hello, right? So still, I meet lots of teenagers who have very good social skills. So it is sad that we're losing some people, and then with AI, we're gonna lose even more people, right? With AI companions, we've already lost, I think, a lot of young men to pornography. I think there's always going to be a subset of people we kind of lose to devices or to screens, but I'm optimistic that the rest of us really value actual real life social connections so much, and touch and eye contact, that we're gonna go back and like find those things again. Yeah.
The loneliness numbers suggest the opposite, though. They've been growing since about 2011.
Yeah.
But this is where I think your research is so powerful, and your ability to put it in actionable strategies. And one of the things you write about that I really want to highlight here, just go a little bit deeper, is the power of conversation and how to have a conversation. I mean, we just modeled vulnerability, but what are the other components of people listening or watching us right now?
Sure.
What do you tell them about how to have a good conversation?
Sure. And by the way, I did feel more connected to you when we were talking about our struggles.
Really?
Yeah, it really changed the energy.
Yeah. It was hard for me to do that.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that publicly. So, I'll mention I've gone on a number of first dates, for example, and I know how to have a good conversation, and I don't want to blame like men, because I'm sure this happens with women, but I just have my experiences with men. And most first dates, they just talk nonstop, and they don't ask me a single question. And I'm one of those people who's like very like authentic and real and honest. So several times I would just say, "Do you realize that in the last 45 minutes, you haven't asked me a single question?" And some guys will get like really defensive, and I never see them again. But some are like, but then they're like, "Oh," and they get it, and then and like one guy said to me, "Wow," he's like, "You're right. I was nervous, and when I'm nervous, I talk too much." And that was a vulnerable thing to say.
That's vulnerable.
And that actually created a connection. But my point is actually not about men. It's not about dating. The point is that, and I kind of mentioned this again, that especially when we're getting to know people, we want to impress the other person. And how do you impress? By talking and sort of showing how impressive you are. But that doesn't forge a connection. So we don't ask each other enough questions. And there's actually studies that show that people are afraid to ask questions. They think, especially kind of personal questions, we are afraid that we would be nosy or intrusive. And it turns out, maybe sometimes we are, but it turns out that on average, we actually want people to ask us questions. And so that's one of my main pieces of advice. ask the other person questions, and even maybe deep questions, not necessarily about your deepest secrets, right? But about like real questions. I mean, they're so rare. I want people to ask me like, how are your relationships going? How is this going? People tend not to ask, maybe because they're afraid that they think, oh, she doesn't want to answer that question. So ask questions and ask them with curiosity, right? To find something that you're curious about. We almost always can find something authentically interesting about the other person.
So if you like that clip, there's a lot more where that came from. So hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell so you won't miss our new videos as they come out each week.